nothing more embarrassing than walking into theaters and waiting and waiting. The next thing you see is a child walking in with a Pomni outfit. And you're just there like, what am I doing with my life? I walked over. It took like 20 minutes to like walk over from like a clinic to a movie that was leaked. All my coworkers, like I told them like, I'm leaving early. Why, you may ask? Because I have a date with destiny or something like that. And they're like, ooh, okay, what are you gonna go watch? And I'm like, that's a great question. That warrants a good answer. What movie can I say I'm gonna go watch that does not sound bad to say to your job at the clinic that you left early to go watch a movie? What's a movie worthy of saying that you left early work just to you asked for permission early to leave work? It's a mystery. I'm sick. I had originally written a script where I watched the leak, and then I went to the movie theaters, and I had a whole epiphany while sitting there, which warranted a full rewrite of my original script. Which, well, I guess not entirely, but like, yeah, not completely, but don't worry, some things were the same, but whatever. I'm like so sick right now. Okay, so I bought my ticket the day the movie was announced on like YouTube or something like that. I like went into my bank account and I was like, yeah, I can afford to not get spoiled. And I booked it for the premiere. And as I stated before in the recording, I had a request to leave work early to go see this movie. The conversation went something like, hey boss man, I know we have like crisis patients or whatever, but I gotta leave like at 6 p.m. because I have a prior engagement I cannot reschedule nor miss. And then I just dipped out on my patients. Which in my defense, I know that sounds bad, but I bought the ticket in advance before they had even posted my schedule. So I did what I had to do, okay? I left like an hour. I left an hour early, okay? It's not a big deal. Because I was not going to let any clips on TikTok spoil this for me. Oh, okay. All right, I see how it is. And yeah. Of course it was going to be in Portuguese. Yeah, they always get the material first. I already spent $20 on the ticket. And my boss had already given me the green light so I can leave early. And I already got my interrogation from my coworkers, so I was not going to back down easily. Yo no me pierdo en feria. Yo sé andar en feria. Okay, sure. Did you avoid the leak? Bitch, please. My manager sent me an email with like the recap of our one-on-one session without even having said session yet. And he told me not to read it until we had that session. And guess what I did? I don't mean to brag, but I'm kind of a professional at this, okay? While people were stressing, trying to avoid the leak by all means, I got my Cool Ranch Doritos and my Poppy, and I watched the whole thing while barely comprehending anything. Because I was trained for this, okay? Because two things kind of went on in my head. The first thing is that the day I went to the movie theaters, I was just finishing my second 13-hour shift day in a row, so I was on 4 hours of sleep, and I was clearly delirious for thinking that the leak had to be fake by some Herculean miracle. And the second is, speaking of miracles, Miraculous Ladybug. I used to be a Miraculous Ladybug fan, alright? I was there since day one. And anyone who was a part of the fandom before they even changed the animation knows what it is to be a Miracular. What that consists of, okay? Remember when we didn't have consistent animations because the quality would depend on the studio that had the episode? And also depending on how good the quality was, that was going to be the equivalent of how good the episode would be? Remember when Hawkmoth was just Hawkmoth? And he didn't change his name like 20 fucking times? Remember when only 2 people had a Miraculous and not the entire fucking classroom? If any of those things resonate with you, then you're gonna remember Mundo Gloop. They were our biggest warrior at the Coliseum. Because either you got the episode in French by going to the sketchiest site that would for sure put a virus on your device, or Mundo Gloop would release it in Portuguese. And the only bad side was that they were releasing the episodes like at 2 fucking a.m. for Latin America. Those people were expecting the fandom to put their fucking alarms and stay past our bedtime on a school night waiting for the episode to be released and barely understand a word. And they were right. So yeah, a fucking leak in Portuguese was not going to deter me. Mundo Gloop had trained me for this very moment, and my Spanish was just going to have to pull its weight as well. The only thing that was going to ruin my experience now was if this episode, the grand finale of this show we had been following for like 3 years, had poor writing. Oh wait, guys, as I sat there through the fucking ads from that company, Fando, whatever, like at least in the theater I was at, I don't know if it's different per theater, but like that's the one I got. You'd think that after 15 ads with every title card being inserted in my face, I would know the name. I was just sitting at that theater praying. I was praying, okay? I was there like, buddy, JCC, I know we don't talk anymore, but Jesus, I need you to take the fucking wheel because we need a fucking miracle over here for this shit show. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was nervous. Not because I had too much hopes of the leaks being fake or that something bad was gonna happen to my favorite character or whatever, but because things were already going south, alright? It took me like 20 minutes to find the fucking entrance because I walked there from work. I got humiliated by a 10-year-old who looked awesome in her Pomni cosplay. I'm in my scrubs, and the guy who's scanning the tickets, like, I'm just in line, he starts scanning my ticket, and I'm just like, don't read the movie title, please, don't read the movie title, as if he doesn't work here. And then I mentioned I was there alone. Yeah, no, nothing more depressing than seeing a healthcare worker in scrubs going to watch the leak movie on a weekday, looking like she herself is going through a crisis, when really it's just sleep deprivation at that point. So I had my notes. And in my state of delirium and deprivation of basic needs, I was still able to form some opinions that I want to share with you guys. And yeah, we're just gonna do a rundown. The best way to get through this, so we can actually get some points across, is to just do a quick rundown of the finale. I'm gonna do my best not to get angry yet. And we're just gonna get through this together, okay? Just one last time for the amazing digital circus. Woo! We pick up where episode 8 leaves off, and Kinger is just explaining that he indeed did delete Kane, and he lost the computer in the process, which I thought Jax would be a bit more confused by this because he wasn't in on this part of the plan, but okay. And then Jax brings up what I would consider a valid point, which is that no one seems to be upset at Kinger for anything or in everything, and how he is the only one that is actually complaining about it, which I think is an interesting point, but we don't really have time to dwell on that interesting point because we get told that they are brain scans. Right now, we just started. Oh, okay, sure, okay, fuck it, I guess. Everyone gets fucking depressed because obviously, and then Jax is an asshole again, which, you know, he's just making fun of Zubul and Ragatha, and yeah, you know, boo-hoo, tell me something new. They all go their separate ways because they don't want to deal with each other because it's just too much to process, and they all just rather be alone. And the whole message of the last episode just like goes over their heads, understandably so though. Pomni runs after Kinger as he's trying to fix the circus. She has her own mental breakdown because she feels like she just made things worse. Kinger, being the MVP that he is, tells her that she is great and that he admires how she adapted so much quicker to the circus than other people tend to, which, you know, I'm just not going to put much thought into that and the timeline of how long Pomni has been in there. That's just too much for me and it's just irrelevant at this point. So anyway, the rebuilding begins and we get a montage of like weeks going by. This is important. Weeks going by and the band getting back together and how they're just like rebuilding everything. And then Jax is the only one that's not participating because he's just like bitching in the corner as one does. And then we get our first funny bunny scene. A moment of silence, please. This is our first shipping moment of Funny Bunny on this channel, alright? I just need to feel it for a moment, because I know we joke a lot about it, okay? I joke a lot about it on this channel, okay? At first I was sad, but that just kind of lasted around the same amount of time as Jax's abstraction scene. Oh wait, yeah, so it turns out that Jax was gonna talk to Pomni, and then for whatever reason he was like, see ya later, dipped, and boom, abstracted. And then Zubul is just like, yeah, classic Jax. Gango feels bad for not crying, which I found to be an interesting turn of events and a bold move to make in the writing room considering the theme of the show, and I think that we could talk about that. Psych, no, we have more important stuff to address, so we're just gonna gloss over that. Anyway, Ragatha admits that she thought she would be the one to abstract, and she also reveals that Jax and her were like, I guess, acquaintances. Like, yeah, I suppose. But that Jax just changed a lot after Ribbit. And so Ragatha explains that Jax made her promise not to talk about Ribbit again, which Ragatha only agreed to because, well, she just agreed, honestly. Like, of course she would. Like, why wouldn't she agree at that point? And the way Ragatha says it, I don't know why she said it like that. Like if she had been asked before, like, who Ribbit was, like if she had been questioned before. I don't know, she kind of just like said it in that way. I mean, like, it's not like Pomni ever spent the series wondering who Ribbit was. I mean, Pomni barely even wondered who Kaufman was, but okay. Pomni is like, girl, you have been my number one bitch since day one. Which, sure, just tell her what she needs to hear, I guess. It's not like you had many people to choose from, but okay. Se abrazan y se alejan por el distanciamiento social del coronavirus. Anyway, my girl Pomni, she's not loyal to the ship because she does not care that Bugs Bunny over there is abstracted. Like, those spikes still move. She can... I'm not reading... Why did I write that? God, how tired was I? Okay, anyway, I'm not reading that. So after Agatha tells Pomni that she is like the best thing that has ever happened to her since she got stuck in the circus, Pomni is like looking for her man. She pulls out a gun, which by the way, the people in my theater started joking about Pomni shooting Jax, which I thought was kind of funny too. But anyway, she starts shooting the lights so that way she can ease this abstraction. Okay, sure. And you know, she's just like setting the mood, okay? She's just like putting up the vibes in here, you know, like making it a little more chill, you know, just like easing things up, you know. I mean, these two are literally paralleling a canon couple, okay? I can make as many jokes as I want about these two, okay? And then she gives him a big fat hug, you know, and then she starts entering his brain or like his files and memories or whatever it is. I don't know how this works, so we're just gonna go with it. Whoa, Gusher, slow down a second. Don't you think you're going through this too fast? If you feel like I'm rushing, you're not on my tempo, because it's barely been like the first 15 minutes of the movie. It's hard to talk about the door scenes without getting upset, so I'm just gonna make it very general here for now. First door is like if Ragatha abstracted, and it looks like they took the dialogue out of a Wattpad fanfic, because I too would choke someone if they spoke to me like this.
I know you need it, and I'm the only person who can help you. You need me. I can fix you.
He wants payback because she choked him once, so he pins her to the ground and starts choking her too. And this man, like, seriously took that fight personally. Like, there is not a day that goes by where he does not think about that fight. And I mean, I too would not stop thinking about it, you know, if... We're not going to talk about the second door, moving on from that. Third door is just like fucking Looney Tunes over here. Glad they made a cameo. And then we get all the Jaxes, and it's nice to know what they're actually saying, because my Spanish can only help me so much. Pomni asks, you know, like, hey, is that like what you actually think of us? And he's like, and then she's like, well, that's just not realistic, and none of them care. And then this door shuffles, and everyone's like, hey, shut the fuck up. Pomni manages to get a key to one of the doors thanks to musical Jax over here, and then she reaches the real Jax. We now get Jax's point of view, which is basically how he was homeless and how he first got into the circus and how he fumbled Ribbit after revealing his past to her. This frog is gonna take your man away from you. Like, that's all I'm gonna say. Come get your rabbits. I actually thought something was about to happen here, like soap opera style, because this move setting over here, like like, Pomni, I know that the Spanish voice kinger is like attractive and everything, but like your ship is burning down over here. We reach like Jax, like abstracted Jax, if you will. And you know, Pomni starts to approach him, and you know, he cannot understand how he can be missed or how he can be loved. And you know, in good old fashion, we're just gonna continue teasing Funny Bunny because we're almost at the end of this section. Pomni is running to her man. Or rabbit. Pomni is running to her rabbit. That bird is just flying out of the cage, and that rabbit just want to be left alone. He doesn't want to be a snack, you know. Why did I say that? Okay, she's extending those twigs, and she is running like an NBA player until she hugs him, and she's just like, brother, you should have just said something. And he's just like, tee-hee. And so she's like, if you're gonna die, can I at least get a hug? And so he hugs her, and then he starts hyperventilating, and then, you know, Girly was willing to auto-abstract herself with her rabbit until these cockblockers intervened, and now this girl is glitching. Se abrazaron y la alejaron por el distanciamiento social de la abstracción. They then build like a pillow fort for their new pet rabbit, abstracted version, breed, whatever. Which, you know, fair enough. And then we get Gangle. Yay! And so she finally starts to cry, and Subo notices this, and they talk. And by they, I mean just Subo talks like 3 sentences. And that's it. But, okay, moving on. They're just chilling here. Look how peaceful this is. Damn. You guys are just sitting here and talking about your feelings and... Wow. There's no chaos and no bullying and no abuse. It's like so beautiful here, you know? It's like, we feel bad for what happens, but like at the same time, this is just so beautiful. It makes me want... What are you doing here? Where did you come from? Sunday! Get out of here. Stay in the void. Stay there. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. Don't ask me what he's doing, because I cannot even. I'm just so pissed. On a serious note, I like these scenes. I like the no dialogue, but that's not the point, okay? We get their names, which, give me a second, I'm getting into it. And then Kane lets go of like this blue ball that we saw in episode 8. And then he rejoins the group and he's like, hey guys, I went to therapy. Can I be your friend now? And the group is just kind of like, no. And then he's just like, I see. And what if I gave you control of the circus, huh? And so he does that. And then he does like a PowerPoint presentation, you know, just like showing like the real life versions of them, like living their life out there like normal. And we just get to see each of them. So, okay, just going over the names, I guess. Pomni is Abigail. Brooks, I only wrote down their first names, so I don't know their last names for most of them, okay? Whatever. She's just chilling out there. She's just making her silly little videos. And she's just being an accountant. Go girl. Ragatha, her name is Susie Ackerman something. She cut ties with her mother. Let's go. And now Girlie's out there making that bank. Let's go. Gangle, her name is Zoe something. I didn't write down her last name. She's in the hospital, but you know, we're all good. And she quit her fast food job, which is just like the best fucking news I've heard all year. And now she's out there making webcomics. And then you have Zubul, their name is Riley. They opened a bar. Let's go. Like, look at all these entrepreneurs and like successful people. Like, they really said like, hey, fuck Jax. Make all these people have good businesses. And you know something? Y'all can start a business here. You know, like, y'all can start a business in the real world. You got the connections, the networking, the finance, the liquor, the marketing, like, designer over here. Like, heck, if you want to include Kinger just for the shits of it, I don't know. He can be like the systems operation manager or something. Like, whatever. Speaking of Kinger, his name is Grant, and he's just living out his life with his wife. And he's a dad, which I just knew it, so whatever. Lastly, the memorial tribute / whatever, I don't know. The tribute to Jax. Leroy Mateo. Yeah, I did include the full name in the script. Like, no wonder no one guessed the name. Listen, it's no surprise here that I'm not white, okay? So let's be racist for a second.
What's a Latino crime? Be racist for a moment.
Have you ever heard a person named Mateo who tells you their name is Mateo and is meant to be pronounced as Mateo? And that's how his parents wished for them to pronounce the name Mateo. Mateo. What the fuck do you mean Mateo? I've never seen that. Like, I've seen Matthias, which is Matias, but I've never seen that with Mateo. That's how it is. Mateo. Anyway, I was out here thinking he was going to be named after one of the members of One Direction. Like, literally any single one of them. I thought he would have one of the names. And they decide to stay in the circus after all this, you know, just chilling. And then they make a memorial wall. And they're just chilling. And then we get this last scene of them as human beings out there living their lives. And just, you know, for the last bit of the laughs. For the tradition of it.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we need to get serious now. Gusher, why did you recap the movie? Because everything I mentioned is important to explain why and what exactly is my issue with this movie, and especially as a finale. Okay, diving in. I truly believe we should have not gotten episode 8 before the movie in the theaters, because it just made the viewing experience worse. than when I watched the leak. Episode 8 just kept one-upping itself with every scene that it had. As I'm sitting there in the theater watching episode 8 again, I'm thinking of all the things they would have had to do to even come close to the level of excitement you felt in episode 8. Like, episode 8 does not let you rest from start to finish. You are getting like so much stuff. I would come close to saying it felt like it was fan service at that point. And that's the main problem with this finale. It feels unbelievably underwhelming. Even the things that should feel like they're gonna raise the stakes feel like nothing because there's like no payoff to it. Like, okay, guys, first 5 minutes, not even like the first 5 minutes I would dare say, Kingo reveals that they are brain scans. And he just says this so casually too. And listen, I know my Portuguese is not perfect, but I had my subs on, helping me out, and it just completely flew off my radar that he revealed this info. I was like so confused for a moment watching these characters freak out. I had to rewind a few minutes back to fully register what had just happened. Like, he really was just like, hey gang, so I killed Kane, and I lost the computer, so I can't bring him back. Also, I was just looking around the computer, like some files, and I saw that we are brain scans. When did we have time for this? Like, I don't know, because back in episode 8, it was kind of left like an urgent matter, like top class high priority to control Kane before he realized that Kingo wasn't around. Now, contrary to some popular belief, I don't think it's a bad thing for fans to discover the ending of a story. I mean, you know, like, it getting leaked is fucked up, but when the fans were theorizing that the members were probably brain scans, I didn't see people having as much of a problem for it as when they actually saw the finale, because it felt like a sort of bittersweet ending to it, and it felt fitting. And I feel like the revelation of this would have not nearly received as much hate as it did if it was just executed properly. When I realized what happened, I was like very confused, you know, like they really did pull Stranger Things over here and just decided to wrap everything up, you know, they grabbed the most anticipated aspect of the show and just finish it in the first 5 minutes. You guys have an hour. You have 60 minutes to wrap this up concisely. This finale was rushing. Like, if you thought I was rushing through the rundown, I honestly was not even trying, because so much yet so little happens. So, okay, fine. That's that. Fuck it. So what's the plot now? If there's no point in trying to escape. What? Oh, wait. We already had that plot in episode 7. And you guys didn't want to repeat it. I see. You guys really did shoot yourself in the foot with that one, huh? Except you didn't. This is something that you're probably going to hear me say a lot in this video, and you may think that I'm contradicting myself, but I promise there's a difference. Rinse and repeat. This show seems to understand that they can't rinse and repeat scenes, and they try to follow that, except that they do it a lot, just not in the right way. There are ways to use the same plot point you previously had used and still deliver an impactful scene. So, okay, like for example, Kane is gone and the circus is destroyed, and if before the obstacle to escaping was Kane, then why wouldn't you take an advantage of that? And maybe one of them goes something like, hey, maybe it's easier to leave since the code is broken, or something like that, I don't know. And eventually, when they are at the point of leaving, they realize that they can't because they are brain scans. You have a whole hour to do something like this and still touch on other pending subjects you want to do. You can still explore the other elements in this finale without affecting this new plot. You wanted Jax to abstract? You wanted to give his backstory as a little twist? You can still do that, because the facts are, you have 6 characters. Split them up. You want there to be like excitement to them leaving and need stakes? Okay, you can have that Jax abstracted and is now trying to attack them, and the circus is falling apart, and it seems like if they don't escape now, then the circus or Jax is gonna end them. Oh, but Gusher, they are canonically brain scans. Yeah, well, let's say that as they discover all of this, Kinger, being the genius MVP programmer that he is, says that he can stabilize the circus, but that they will never be able to leave. And I mean, like, it's not like they had a choice anyways, but it could be that, you know, the gang was looking for the exit, while Palmy, she doesn't want to give up on Jax, so ultimately, if Kinger fixes the circus, he gets rid of all the glitches and abstractions, and so that means bye-bye Jax, and boom, There's your finale. There's part of the finale, okay? A rough draft, if you will. Oh, what's that? What? Oh, did I skip over Jack's abstraction? Well, I mean, they did the same thing. I feel like it's fair. Rinse and repeat. How did we go from episode 7 to literally nothing? He just appears abstracted. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, regardless of whatever opinion you have on Jax, on a writing standpoint, that's a load of bullshit. I was like so disappointed with this. Oh gosh, you're just sad that he abstracted. I don't give a shit. A quantum supercomputer calculating by 1,000 years could not even approach the amount of fucks I do not give. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but okay. Rinse and repeat. Fine. You had episode 7. And then they shot themselves in the foot because how do you top this scene? You twist it. When a character is affected by abstraction, it seems like it physically hurts for them, but in their mind, once they are reaching it, it's a very calm and soothing experience. So take that and twist it. Bop it, twist it. You can put it as like, oh, because Kane is not around, and because the circus is not stable, abstracting is like the most grotesque and torturous thing. You weren't scared of pulling back this rabbit's skin, so why stop there? Or, okay, fine, let's say that you don't want to touch that original scene. Okay, it remains the same for the individual. But there are 2 ways you could have done this. The first is that they're realizing that they have to find an exit, so Pomni goes in search of Jax, and then bam, he abstracted in his room. Make a parallel with Kaufmo from episode 1. Or 2, she finds him in the middle of abstracting, and as she does this, we can get like the whole sequence of events that we get in the movie, where she like goes into like his brain and his memories and whatnot. Okay. Why exactly? Because we as the viewers don't actually know what this looks like canonically. And then we get to the door scenes. I just hate all of it. I could go into how this paints Jax and how it confirms a lot of things people have been saying, but I think there are videos out there on TikTok that do a much better job. And I mostly just want to approach this finale more on a writing standpoint. But I'll just say this. It felt like a fucking waste of time. The reason why I said I don't really give a shit for Jax abstracting is because he already abstracted. And now you're telling me all these things about him. And by telling, I mean you shoved it down my throat, you just like put it up in my face minutes after he abstracted. And also because he's an asshole. Let me just emphasize that this isn't to like invalidate or diminish his backstory, but it's not like the structure of this whole show is doing him any favors either. A really twisted part of me would have liked to see an ending similar to the original source, if you will. I have no mouth and I must scream. But also, like mix it up a bit with like the mist. Just like a big fuck you. Like, okay, let's say that Pomni manages to bring back Jax, and then they join the rest to escape, but they haven't found out their brain scans yet. And so they start to escape, they start logging off. But one must stay behind, and Jax sacrifices himself because he hates his fucking life or whatever. And as they all already left, he realizes that they are brain scans. Except this would only work if Jax was actually written better, because if not, this gives him like an unearned redemption for sacrificing himself. Then there's Ribbit. In my personal preference, I would have not wanted to see so much Ribbit, just because I like the idea that they just kind of like haunted the narrative in a similar way like Rachel Amber does in like Life is Strange, which I know there's like opinions of Life is Strange, okay, but like I like what they were doing with like that whole plot of like Rachel Amber. We don't really know about her unless you play like Before the Storm, but I like that she was just like mentioned so much, and that she had like an impact. I like that. And when they started showing so much about Ribbit, I was like, well, shucks. Like I kept saying like, oh, we're gonna get flashbacks of Ribbit, and then I just gave up at one point. But at the same time, like when I said I wanted flashbacks, I said it because I thought we were gonna get it, but not necessarily because I wanted it so badly to happen. Like if it happened, yeah, that would have been fine, but I kind of like the whole haunting the narrative thing. And then we get to this scene, which is fine, Also, like, holy head difference. Okay, I don't mind this scene that much. I do just mind like the whole song thing, mostly because I wish they just gave us like a scene we hadn't seen before instead of like a montage of scenes. Like, and I get what they're supposed to mean, like along with this song, like what they were going for and everything when it came to like talking about Jax, because if you think the song's about Pomni, like I can see why you would think that, but like I like to think more of the double meaning of it, okay? I get it, but it's just not my cup of tea, okay? Also, I'm pretty sure in a video I said I didn't want to see these two hug in the ending. And I was like, oh, I just want to hear them sing a little song again. I just wanted to be super chill, alright? I'm not expecting Zootopia 2 over here, okay? But it can be similar, alright? Like, you know, like the vibes, just copy the vibes. Instead, we're just gonna know that they are good because Jax puts down his walls with something as simple as, remember when everyone shared what they did in the real world back in the bar? Well, I'm just a fucking loser. Calls himself a loser. I don't know. And don't make them kiss, please. Or hug. I don't want any hugs, okay? I don't know. Make them sing make them sing again. I like when they were singing. Make them sing another silly little song, okay? And at this point, you are probably wondering, what about the rest of the cast? Like, what are they doing since there is literally no other plot for them? Well, they just arrive in time to save Pomni from extracting with Jax, and then they build a pillow fort. Who needs a dog when you have a glitch rabbit chilling in a tent? And just when I was wondering what happens next, Kane appears. We see that he was in the void, and I know I said I liked this scene, but like, why is he back? Even if I like Kane, why is he here? He just appears in the void and then comes back. Why delete him if you're gonna bring him back? It's like the stupid time travel thing of Troll Hunters. It's Troll Hunters all over again. God. Realistically speaking, he just came back to show the characters their names and their human versions. And I mean, yeah, you have this whole segment that has no dialogue, sure, but I think there were other ways to reveal that without bringing Kane back. On a writing standpoint, even if I did agree with Kane being good, I think it's still stupid. It's cheap, and it makes zero sense and only subtracts from any impact this show had. But okay, we got through the movie, and to be honest, it's not the worst movie. I mean, I think the potential is there, it's just wasted, you know, which is a huge shame. But you know, coming back home and sitting with my thoughts, I knew I wanted to make a video, I just wasn't sure what this video was going to look like. But after looking at the discourse online and what I felt during my watch, I gathered my points. And this is where I'm going to tell you that this video is about to take a bit of a turn into mental health, and I'm not sure what I'm going to mention, what not. I got a script, but I may go out of script sometimes. So if you're on your mental health journey and it's not an easy subject for you, I may or may not say something that could trigger it. So watch with discretion, I guess. As much as I feel like this finale was not good, some of the things I would see online gave me like this icky feeling. And there is almost an irony of the fact that I made a Jax segment in this video to a finale that was dedicated to one character instead of the whole group. But I do just want to say my 2 cents on this discourse that I've been seeing online, because I think it's part of a bigger conversation. And maybe part of it comes from having been sleep deprived and finishing a 13-hour shift. But when I sat there and I watched this Jax and Rivet scene specifically, I did feel a bit moved. Blocking out what I knew of this character and just focusing on what this scene said, now that I was hearing it in English dub, I remember sitting there thinking, damn, I just wish this was not wasted the way it has been. And just combining that with like the internet's reactions and comments, I knew I wanted to discuss it. I think this episode would not get nearly as much hate if only this was a Jax episode, like the Jax episode, not the finale, not a continuation of the story like he has been getting for the past episodes. If this show was scripted differently and this was exclusively a Jax focused episode, I think it would have been considered good. And I like this as a Jax episode if it was just that, because I just think it says so much about him that could have carried out to make him more of an understandable character. Keyword being understandable, not likable. Before I explain why, I just want to make something very clear. That whole bit where I say that it was embarrassing to arrive to the theaters with my scrubs on and see a 10-year-old in an awesome Pomni cosplay was not just for shit and giggles, okay? I work at a mental health clinic. I work at a clinic where we run treatments that require an almost daily supervision or administration of said treatment, which means there are patients I see on a regular basis. I know more about these patients than they would like for me to, and I know more about them than I can afford to. Mentally, at least. There are so many patients, and they're not all sunshine and rainbows. It's interesting because people will say mental health matters until it's someone that they don't like. And people will say that victim stories are important until the victim does not fall under the perfect victim archetype. Unfortunately, there is this notion where we do not want to associate words like abuse and victim together in the same sentence if it's talking about the same person. Like, for example, like when we say like the abuser was once a victim. I understand that we do not want to push a harmful narrative for people who are currently victims, but there is a difference between believing that these two go hand in hand and knowing a possible outcome for people who were victims of said abuse and becoming an abuser as what once started as a coping mechanism or as a survival tactic, and then it just becomes instinctual. And two things can be true here. Is Jax an abusive son of a bitch that the service was coming to him? Yeah, but are his actions beyond terrible in the context of how the digital circus works that make him beyond worthy of receiving any type of help? Keyword here being help, mind you. Not love, not care or forgiveness, just help. No, because what his flashbacks show me is that he wasn't always like this. He wasn't like this before. He wasn't always the biggest jerk to be in the room. He became this way. He became this way to keep his sanity in this digital world. Does that make his actions okay? Fuck no. But I feel like people are forgetting to differentiate between who he was before he entered the circus with who he became after Ribbit's abstraction. Oh Gusher, do you think he is to blame for the abstractions? Yes and no. My conflict is more because of the writing though. Because yeah, he is partially responsible because he did push Ribbit away after he confessed. But two things occur. One is that he has this like self-fulfilling prophecy thing where he will treat people the way he thinks people are going to treat him until they eventually do treat him like that. And then the prophecy is filled, which is the part that makes him responsible for the abstractions. But two, we don't really know much about Ribbit to understand what they are like. And I don't mean to like put any blame on a victim or anything like that. I just mean it more in the sense of why wasn't she able to fall back to other people like Hoffmo is. I wish she had more depth in that sense, and that's why I felt like Ribbit was wasted as well, because I like the idea of them haunting a narrative because it allowed us to theorize more on Ribbit. But now seeing her in all these Jax scenes, I can only wonder, why was she so attached to Jax in that sense that she couldn't fall back on someone else, like again Kaufmore or on Ragatha? Like, what is it about her past that made her so attached to someone like Jack? Again, this isn't to put blame on her, because yeah, I can imagine that it did hurt her a lot to see that her friend was pushing her away. I'm just more curious and just would have liked to see more of Ribbit outside of Jax. Kaufman went insane and abstracted because of the exit, not because Jax shunned him out. Like, I imagine that he was hurt that he wasn't believed by Jax, but at the same time, none of the other characters believed him either. So it wasn't just Jax in this sense, it was that he was not being believed by anyone in the room, anyone in the circus, and he felt alone. But he also just went insane from the idea of there being an exit to begin with. He just became paranoid. Oh, Gusher, but he killed his mom. We don't know that for sure. Also, did you guys ignore the fact or the part where he described his relationship with his mother? Now listen, I don't condone violence over here. If my mother verbally abused me and started laughing when I told her something very deep and personal, which if the theories are true, then I think we know how the story typically plays out by now, don't we? And then out of nowhere, after throwing every insult in the book and just degrading me to every point left and right, decided to hug me. Yeah, I too would be scared shitless. I don't know if I would push the woman off me, but I definitely would be very scared and not know what I'm going to do next and probably act on an impulse. We even get to see what Jax is like outside of the circus, which, I mean, seems like a pretty chill person, you know? I mean, they said that he has friends, and I see zero indication of him being the detriment to their well-being. I mean, one of them even allowed for him to stay in their house, and that's a pretty big fucking deal in my standards. I wouldn't do that for anyone, so I am left to assume that he was not always a fucking asshole. So it bothers me when I see this like negative reaction to him sharing his backstory, because it feels like it's clouded by hate. And I really just want to emphasize that this is not me saying that these people deserve to be forgiven and that they should be loved right away. But if people want to help out, if they want to be the helping hand, that's a different story. Do I agree that women in media have been written out to be the one who give out the olive branch? Yes. Definitely. Do I think that anyone in this room should have given him the beating of his life? I mean, yeah, it's only fair given the context of this world, like, go for it. He had it coming. But when people say things like, oh, Pomni is a bird because she wants to help Jax. Okay, there are other reasons to say Pomni is a bird that I can agree with. But it being that she wants to help is not one of them, okay? Or that because Subo said that he is a part of the group, that makes them a bird for some reason. That's... okay. And that because Ragda is nice to them and that blah, 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 she's a bird. What? Big Mom, what's up? I forgot to mention this. I can't believe I forgot to mention this anyway, but if you hate Gangle because she cried for Jax, fuck all y'all. Don't ever go into mental health, like any profession at all. Just steer away from it completely, please. For the good of humanity, for everyone's well-being, for your well-being too. Just don't look that direction. That's not an option for you. Just choose a different path for you, buddy. Because I personally would be more offended if this group picked and choose where they want to put their humanity and their morals and their ethics and their values, and it's just like crisscross applesauce, something like that, you know, like it doesn't make any sense, and they just put it wherever it's convenient, and it just goes against their characters. Like, for example, Kinger, MVP, but at the same time, they should be more pissed at the fact that he indirectly, sure, but he still contributed to the existence of the circus, and yet Jax is the only one who says something about it. But hey guys, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. So hey, at least they're consistent. I'm not trying to praise this show's consistency, but you know, at least they got that part right. Oh gosh, but the door scenes. Okay, let's talk about the door scenes. I don't like the scene, okay? At least not for the finale. But let me put it to you this way, okay? I have patients who come in for their refills and go about their day. I have patients who have trouble sleeping or focusing, pop a pill and go about their day. I have patients who won't let me take their vitals because they think it's stupid, or because they don't like stressing over their weight because they have an eating disorder, or they are paranoid because they're going to have high blood pressure and it runs in their family. I have patients who straight up tell me to shut up while I ask about their day because they are not having a good Friday. I have patients who used to hit their partners while drunk. I have patients who tell me that they want to run their car through a canal and hit the ditch. I have patients who lie to me about being high. I have patients who assume I'm Mexican because of my real name. I have patients who come in one day with their partner seeming like the perfect couple, and then the next day they talk about hitting their partner and wishing they were dead. I have patients who relapse on drugs. I have patients who talk very inappropriately about my coworkers and the things that they want to do to them. I have coworkers who have worked at different mental health units, like psychiatric wards and stuff like that, where they've gotten punched or hit or physically assaulted because a patient probably thinks that they're going to steal their food. I don't like the door scenes, not for what it is, but because I knew how it was going to be interpreted. And it pissed me off because I knew that if this was just written better and this wasn't the finale and we weren't rushing, this would have been great. Seeing these personas of Jax is interesting. And I don't blame anyone for only seeing violence, misogyny, and abuse, because that is what we have been seeing from this character for multiple episodes. So it's hard to view it from a different angle. And why would you? If there wasn't anything more to this character for such a long time and then you're just being shoved down your throat these different things about him, I wouldn't expect you to accept this, because it's not well done. Wait, what is that thing when you have something of extreme? What is that one thing that people joke about on the internet without knowing any better of it and start using it in their normal day sentences without knowing how to properly use that term? What is that term that people use all the time? What is it? Yeah, first Jax is his violent self. One that sees that violence doesn't really have a lasting effect in this world because nothing is real. That is what he believes, that nothing is real. I don't know why some people will watch scenes where Jax says like, holy shit, this is real, and think he's lying. This man in episode 6 practically spelled out becoming part of the machine and choosing an archetype or whatever, and then holding on to that part of themselves in the real world doesn't get you anywhere. All these door things are impressions that he has of these people, but taken to an extreme. This version of Pomni is what he believes Pomni is like, to an extreme. And he believes that she is trying to fix him. Anyone who knows Jax at this point would be like, yeah, typical Jax abusing women. But with a better build-up, this could have just been seen as more symbolic or understanding that this is an intrusive thought. So what is a good scare tactic in your opinion, guys? What is a good way to scare people into not getting close to you if words are not working? What would be your most extreme way of having people stay away from you? Even if you agree or don't with it, you know that the most extreme thing you can do to keep someone away with you is violence. He does this to scare her. He thinks that doing this to her would scare her, which, mind you, he's not even right. Like, being honest here, he's not even right. Like, when have you seen Pomni run away from something like this? Like, do you genuinely think that Pomni would be scared by this? Second, Jax. I don't like this scene, mind you. I just have my whole opinion about the constant use of him being in a maid dress, and this is all because of the merch. But with Gangle, as fucked up as it is, in episode 5, she put him in a maid dress. In this intrusive thought of his, he is trying extremely hard to overcompensate and make it seem like it's not a big deal. Yeah, not a big deal. And that he actually likes it. And that he is trying to regain control of the situation. Because when you pair this up with his backstory, it only makes sense that he would want to regain control of how he is perceived, especially when it comes to his masculinity that is in question, and it is being diminished. But because it is paired up with the rest of the scene, it feels overshadowed by how sexually suggestive it is, which I don't really like. I don't really vibe with it in the scene, not necessarily because of like the sexually suggestiveness or whatever, but just like it felt out of place. It felt like this was like the first draft, and it felt like we were trying to like cave into like a ship, and at the same time I don't even know how to describe this. It's just so weird. It's just fucked up, honestly. There are other ways to write this scene, and this third Jax is really just about like upping the ante, about being the funny one and not taking anything seriously, because if he does take anything seriously, then he will know that he ruined people's lives. I would say like this intrusive thought is almost like the way children react, you know, because they don't know better a lot of the time, but like young children, okay, not like 12-year-olds, okay, I'm talking about younger children, that they just don't know the severity of things sometimes. Pomni even asks, you know, like, hey, like, is that what you think of us? He replies that it's just fun to play things out in extreme. Where violence is funny because they cannot die, and so it doesn't matter how you get your point across as long as you do. Where he is the epitome of masculinity, and he is very comfortable in his avatar and wearing a maid dress and anything that's feminine related. He is confident, and he will find a way to regain control of anything that is an issue to him, especially by turning it against you. He has no reason to take anything seriously because it's all just a big cartoon of him. And they all have an archetype, and he is the funny one. And so abstraction is not a big deal because nothing is real here. And the thing is, my job is not to like the patients though, and to be best friends with them. It's just to understand them and to give them a better level of care. If a guy like Jax walk into the clinic, which, yeah, there's been guys like Jax that walk into the clinic, honestly. I can't say I like them. I can say they've pissed me off. So how do you approach something like that then, when you don't like someone and you are still looking after their care? And the way I do it is recognize that they willingly walked into a mental health clinic and that they want to get help. And so that's the forefront I use. But the only way I'm able to build up any kindness, to be able to help them out, to not look down on them, to not just judge them on what they're presenting, is understanding the fact that they are here. They're taking what is the first step in their mental health journey, which is looking for help, admitting that they need help in some way, and just being there is like a big first step to them. I know someone is probably going to say this, so I'm just going to say it. Ragatha also has an abusive mother, and she's not an asshole. You don't know how the world works. There are so many factors that contribute to someone having a different outcome, even if they share similar experiences or if not the same experience. Socially, economically, culturally, heck, just the fact that one was born as a boy, one was born as a girl, impacts so much. Even if they were raised in the same household, that is not a guarantee that they're going to turn out the same. Without going too far, Cain and Abel. Yeah. So if that is your argument, then please, 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 please don't ever go into psychology. Or better yet, don't ever work at a mental health institution or anything like that, because you are not a fit candidate. And just quickly, something that has also bothered me is people saying that he is a poorly written character because they understand him and he is not complex. Now, don't get me wrong, he is poorly written, but can you tell me why you think that way? Do you not hear how contradictory it is to say that he is poorly written and say I understand him in the same sentence? Oh, but Jax is not complex. Yeah, but you understood his character. That doesn't classify as poorly written. You know why I find him to be poorly written? Because this show cannot decide if they want him to be disliked and hated or if they want to redeem him. This whole segment is not for you to think that Jax is a complex character and that no one got the fucking assignment and that you should sympathize with him. More so just breaking down the complaints that I've been seeing about his backstory and how it feels a little hypocritical and the response is almost concerning at this point. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this backstory makes him such a misunderstood character and so compelling that we should throw him some roses and forgive him for what he has done. I think it's just more of an opportunity to understand where this type of character comes from. And I feel like the reason why the response to Jax's backstory has also been what we've been seeing online is because of this show's #1 hater, the fucking writing. Obviously, the internet blows up with different opinions, and every single one that I've watched, I would agree and disagree with. Sometimes even contradicting the last opinion I just agree with or disagree with. Just reaching the point where I even went to like a crisis with myself because it is not nice to find out you are easily impressionable. Like, here I thought I was the lion who does not concern himself with the sheep's opinion. And now you're telling me that I am the sheep following the shepherd. So I took it upon myself to just rewatch the show, taking into account these opinions, and just forming my own, and locating the root of the problem, which is the fucking writing. One of the things I noticed is that as the fandom, we can only agree on the most superficial things when it comes to the writing of this show, because there's just like so much ambiguity. Don't get me wrong, theorizing in fandoms is fun and all that, but there are just some aspects in the show that refuse to land on anything concrete, alright? For example, this show cannot give into the character's backstory too much. Why? I don't really know. I was under the impression that they just could not remember it, but they do. Episode 5 implies that they've never shared anything about their life before that bar scene, but the leaks show that they've been close friends. So you're telling me that no one in all that time that they were in the circus ever shared details about their personal life? Up until Pomni arrived, they made the void a pretty big deal and then it was just made out to be pretty insignificant. Jax says that people are not nice when they are close to abstracting, but Ribbit is an example that contradicts that, which given I know that Jax is not a reliable narrator in this case, but still, this whole beginning section of episode 8 implies that there's like an underlying AI because Kane took control, and we don't really explore that. Ragatha says that she failed Jax, but there is not really anything that warrants that line. You could tell me that it was the promise that she made, but even if she had not agreed to that promise, he would have gotten mad at her. He would have distanced himself. So, agree or disagree with that promise, he would have gotten mad at her. Don't you mean that you failed Ribbit? Like, don't you think that would make more sense? Kier mentions Scratch, and you see Kane's reaction and think that something fucked up happened, only for it to be nothing. Kane says NPCs cannot be in the circus, and you think that would have more prevalence, but it doesn't. The whole Abel thing in retrospect means jack shit. We, as a fandom, cannot even agree what happens when Jax holds his breath. We can't even agree on that. And in a different video, I said that sometimes people need to be spoon-fed everything, which I still stand by that because I still think that we did not need a scene of Ragatha and Pomni hashing things out after episode 6. Because if you ask me, any conversation they have after that pretty much is what that conversation would have looked like because they rinse and repeat in the bad way. Oh gosh, but I still would have preferred seeing Pomni and Ragatha fixing things out than more Jax scenes. Yeah, I agree. And you know what's the funniest part about that statement? It's the fact that we get a lot of Jax scenes and don't know anything about him until the end. And to be honest with you, the screen time that Jax has is not something that bothers me. Because on a writing standpoint, it makes sense why he is getting it. I don't know about you, but I don't need another Gango and Zubo scene where they repeat what they said in the last scene. I'd much rather watch what an abstraction looks like. That is interesting. But gosh, I wanted to know more about the other characters. Yeah, well, that's where the problem lies, buddy. Jax getting more screen time wouldn't be as much of an issue if we had other interesting stuff happening to the other characters. But they get the same fucking scenes. And Gooseworks really shot themselves in the foot with this because let me just give you my 2 cents on sharing screen time between characters. There are some shows that have 6 main characters and they have a way of sharing the screen time so we get to know each of them. Yet, with a lot of those shows, you will notice that there are more seasons or more episodes, and there are some times where they will dedicate a whole season to one character. Teen Titans did something like that, or at least they tried to do that, but they were canceled, but they had that intent, alright? However, other pieces of media do not do this. Let's put an example of Equestria Girls here, because that's what I recently watched. Just the movies, not the 40-minute specials or My Little Pony. Tell me about each of the girls. Who do you think are the main characters? If your answer is not Twilight Sparkle and Sunset Shimmer, you're wrong. When Gooseworks said that Pomni and Jax are the main characters, that made sense to me, and I could understand why. And I know some people don't like that because their favorite is not included, but I know that some shows work under that format. But the reason why I say that they shot themselves in the foot was because they tweeted which episode would focus on who. So, you shouldn't have done that. Imagine if, let's say, Sam Levinson, guy who worked on Euphoria, went on Twitter during the release of season 1 and tweeted something along these lines. I know some creators want to engage with their fans, but you still have to be very careful what you post, because not only could it create certain expectations of the show, but also you could say stuff that could tarnish your image. Even if it's meant to come across as a joke. If you go on TikTok, you'll find plenty of people talking about these tweets or publications. And I cannot tell you if they're true or not, because I don't know her personally. But when you pair it up with some other tweets, some decisions you as the creator made with the show, yikes. Just saying, if I was put on jury duty, let's just say I would be inclined to saying guilty on all charges. This show just could not decide what to do. Like, okay, let's take Jax as an example. Is he meant to be liked or not? Did you mean to redeem him or just put him as an example? Like, what was his purpose? Like, writing wise, like, what is the point to him? Because I would think that he was meant to be disliked. You know, we on this channel know him as like the ultimate asshole, but then we just get shoved down our throats things that paint him as redeemable, or at least as someone who deserves to be missed and loved, because that's literally how they phrased it in the finale.
I'm a terrible person. Is that what you want me to say? I already know I am. So why does anybody still care about me? You're not supposed to care. You're not supposed to miss me. You're not supposed to love me. This isn't how this is supposed to go. Please. Leave me alone.
But he does not have the actions to really back it up for the characters that we know. Because yes, in general, you know, like, we as human beings deserve to be wanted and loved, but we also need a set of boundaries and to protect our well-being. And quite frankly, this rabbit is a menace. In the finale, when he says he wasn't supposed to be missed or wasn't supposed to be loved, it feels like we as the viewer or as the audience are supposed to feel that way, or at least the characters feel that way about him or should feel that way about him. Instead of saying something like, I don't want your help, why are you trying to help me, stop trying to help me, you're making this hard, like, that would have made more sense than what he says. Is this something that just happens with Jax? No, actually, this happens with all the characters. All the characters have this issue. In the finale, if 4 of your characters are doing nothing, that's a problem. In a finale, if your antagonist dying leaves confused mixed feelings because they've been an asshole the whole show and they have no redeeming qualities and no one can come to an agreement if this was a redemption arc or if this was part of a bigger conversation of mental health, that's a problem. If in the finale, the main question or plot of the story is resolved in the first 5 minutes, that's a problem. Because you just really solved everything in the first 5 minutes and I only have 55 minutes left of a movie. But the theme was... I know, okay? I know what the theme was, okay? But they accepted being stuck in a circus pretty quickly, alright? Story-wise, they have been there for weeks. But at the same time, that just gives me more questions. What triggered Jax? He approached Pomni and then he left and abstracted. And this was weeks after realizing that they were brain scans. So what happened there? Also, does that mean that whatever they agreed on during episode 8 really did go over their heads because they did leave Jax alone knowing what could happen? Also, Pomni letting him leave so easily was out of character, okay? This is the girl who kept looking after him for like 5 episodes straight. And you're telling me that she just forgot of what could happen? That's bullshit. Literally, in episode 8, when he tries to leave and he has like his fucking panic attack before he leaves, Pomni's like, You better be back. This bitch knew what was going on, and you're telling me she just forgot? That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Why did Kane take weeks to come back? Why was no one else tempted to abstract? I mean, Zubul is right there, okay? Also, random question I didn't ask before. These people believed Abel so easily. Why did no one believe Kaufmo? Like, this man seems chill as fuck. I don't understand what I don't understand what the hesitation is. Oh, Gusher, well, you sure have a lot to complain. Why don't you just rewrite the show? Well, guess what? I'm not gonna do that. But here are some things I think could have fixed the show. Okay? Alright. New segment. Writing standpoint. Here we go. Stick with me because these are the things I would use as a comparison to what this show needed. Equestria girls, and I have no mouth and I must scream. Okay, it'll make sense, okay? Just give me some time. Okay, here we go. So, we know the show takes inspiration from the book, but here are some things that they should have been taking into consideration when writing a story about characters being stuck in a world where they must go on crazy adventures created by AI. Okay? Alright. Remember how I said that they lack a purpose in the story? I didn't phrase it like that, but these characters lack a purpose. One thing I noticed during my rewatch of the show is that they don't really stand out from each other. Yeah, I can't really differentiate these characters one from another based on their goals or wants and needs, because they all pretty much fall into the same things. You know why this dumb rabbit stands out so much? Because he's the only one who actually does not want to leave. So when 5 out of 6 characters agree on the same things, then yeah, they don't really have a lasting effect on the plot. And you know what? They actually used to have different opinions on the circus. But after episode 5, they all just started to blend. Like, I can understand that all of you, 5 at least, 5 out of 6 people here want to leave. But that's because you told me that. That's because you told me you want to leave. In the book, Am has a different reason for choosing each of the 5 people he plans on torturing for the rest of eternity. Because think of it this way. Am had to choose people that could complement one another, at the same time cause conflict with each other, comfort one another, stabilize one another, keep afloat of one another, but also be the detriment to each of one of them. Think of it this way. Think of like The Good Place. When Eleanor realizes that they're not in the good place, that they are actually in the bad place, she realizes this because they keep fighting with each other. And that is because the 4 of them were set up in a way that they will always bicker about something. They will always fight about something, but they have enough good qualities to like something about the other. But they still fight and they still argue, but they fix things, but they argue again, and that's what makes it so entertaining for the people of the bad place to keep them there. Now, Kane does not have control of his victims, like who he chooses to be there, but writing wise, you should be making sure that each of them has a purpose being there, and you also should be making sure that your characters can play off of another character, you know, like they could either mirror each other, or they can have something in common with that other person, or they could just like parallel each other. Like, each of your characters should be having something like that with another character. If the show's purpose was about learning to live the stagnant life and talking about the effects of refusing help, and you have 6 characters, use that. Okay, going off script here. All right. 6 characters, let's go. Pomni. Pomni is the break in that stagnant life because she's the new girl, all right? So her arc is pretty much just learning to be there. So whatever she has going on right now is going to be pretty similar to how I would draft her. But yeah, she can kind of stay the same, and then Jackson kind of stay the same. Like, them two, like, it's pretty clear like what they're supposed to be doing. They stay the same. But what about the other 4? The other 4, let's go. Ragatha. I would have given Ragatha a more neutral standpoint on if she wants to stay or go. She is someone who is going to blow where the wind blows, okay? She is someone who doesn't really form her own opinion very well and just kind of depends on other people's opinions. Because she's a people pleaser, we could keep that aspect about her. But Ragatha doesn't know if she wants to stay or go because out there is her mother, and she doesn't think that she can confront her mother. But in here, she feels underappreciated, right? Okay, there's that. Zubul says that they want to leave their mark in the world, but let me just tell you something. Baby, on that couch, you're not gonna accomplish much. I would give Zubul a more of a rebellious type of plot, because that's something that she had in the beginning, which was that she didn't want to go on the adventures. I would make it that Zubul and Kaufmo are more friends in this version, like they're more close. Kaufmo talks about there being an exit. Zubul believes that there's an exit because they want to go back out there, leave their mark on the world, whatever. They're very hopeful about those things. And then they slowly start to lose that hope of there being an exit. And so they no longer want to help Kaufmo. Around that time, Pomni comes, breaks that stagnant life. A possibility like, yeah, more people can arrive to the circus, but what's the point if there's no exit? That's the way that Zubul sees it. But then, Pomni comes, Kaufmo abstracts, and Zubul feels like their mission now is to prove that there is an exit, so they are looking into the CNA thing. They are investigating an exit, and that's how they start finding out everything about the company, or about Kaner, or even about, Kinger being a programmer. Speaking of Kinger is more on the opinion of wanting to stay in the circus because that's where his wife is. And because we can even say it as he deserves this punishment. He believes that he deserves this punishment because he contributed to the existence of the circus and now real people are trapped here. He may not know that they're brain scans at this point, but he knows that he's at fault. And then lastly, Gangle. Gangle, I would make it that she doesn't want to stay but doesn't want to go. Her life out there is not good and she can't die here, and so she truly is just there because she has to be. She truly just is existing day by day. But having different types of arcs for each of these characters allows you to learn different things about these characters, have different morals or just lessons that you can get from them. But if everyone is agreeing and everyone just thinks the same way, that doesn't really help. It just makes it kind of boring in my opinion. This rabbit stands out because he's the only one that doesn't agree. Do you guys realize that? You know what I needed in general? I needed these people disagreeing more. And I'm not saying these big blown out fights, right? I know I said that in episode 8, it was an okay scene that they didn't really fight too much with Jax because, again, I do still stand by the fact that in the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter anymore. Reason why it's just an okay scene for me is because it doesn't really feel like there's much payoff to it because they weren't disagreeing more. These people have always been on the same page except for one motherfucker. So, none of you think Kinger is slightly responsible for the creation of a circus, except Jax. Okay. None of you are going to question Pomni for pressing the button immediately in episode 7. Okay. One of you is going to slightly lash at Jax for pressing the wrong button, and then we're just going to drop it. Okay. You guys can fight and disagree and still meet eye to eye at certain points. Equestria Girls did it. And that's not a perfect story, but they did it. You should have just done that.
The fucking bass is fucking raw! Shit! Raw! Raw chicken! It's raw. It's fucking raw. They look raw! Raw, Carol! Fucking raw! Raw! Fuck off. And by the way, it's raw. Not pink, not 30 seconds, raw. It's raw! What an embarrassment. Oh no. Oh no. That's a medium rare, it's fucking raw. Raw fucking halibut.
Is it cooked or not? Good. Yes? Let's go!
Raw! Raw! Slightly pink, fine, but fucking bright pink, no! No, 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 no! Fucking raw!
Fucking raw, chef!
That's right, it's fucking raw! Fucking raw! Shit! Raw! Raw chicken! It's raw. Fucking raw.
Shows do follow 2 main characters in a group of 6 a lot of the time. But let me tell you something. 9 episodes cannot cover 6 characters that well. Especially if it's 20 to 40-ish minutes long. I think you would have been just better off having 2 main characters and mainly following them and maybe getting something from the other characters. But okay, it's not impossible to do 6 characters if you really want to do that and let everyone have their moment. So here's what you could have done. Copy Euphoria. I barely watched Euphoria, I'm going to be honest with you, but there is something that I thought was interesting that Euphoria does, which is that each episode in the first season goes into one of the characters' childhood and how that contributed to how they are now as teenagers. Now, that's a lot of tell, not show, but if you make the intros like you did in episode 8 that are very ominous, not really any dialogue, you can make it very show and tell instead. Give each of the characters 5-ish minutes to show their life, and then you have the rest of the episode to continue a plot. And during these plot moments, you get actually interesting scenes for a lot of the characters, and not just the one guy that's not fit with the rest. Isn't that great? This rabbit sucks, but when all the other characters blend into one person, it's hard not to like the asshole in the group. Because at least he has something. Why does no one have a problem or at least said something about Pomni hanging out with Jax? Why does no one address the fact that a lot of them here are just bystanders to Gangle being mistreated. I think people forget that Zubul did not start defending Gangle right away, and we just see that like that progression within the episodes. And let me just tell you something, guys. If 1 out of 10 people is doing something bad and the other 9 are doing jack shit, nothing about it, and just standing around and letting it happen, they're just as bad as the person who's doing the torment, okay? Think about what's up. I forgot to add this in the part where I talk about people saying that Pomni is a bird because she wants to help people, especially wants to help Jax, and people think that that's like bird behavior, which is just weird because like that's like Pomni's whole characterization, that she wants to help people because she's just like that. I forgot to add this in. And while we're on the topic of Gangle getting mistreated and everyone being fucking bystanders over here, let's talk about Pomni and how I don't think she's a fucking bird for the reasons that people say that she's a bird. I'm just gonna say it. I think that everyone had their best self-interest at heart here. Why? Because I did not see anyone sit down with Pomni and be like, Pomni, I'm gonna hold your hand while I say this. Jax is a fucking asshole. You probably noticed this, but he's an abusive son of a bitch and you should be careful. Please, Pomni. And then we see Pomni reply with something like, yeah, girl, everything you said just kind of like went in one ear and left the other ear. Like, you're not the boss of me. I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want. I'm gonna hang out with him because it's in my best self-interest. Like, no, we never see that. And that's not me saying like I need to be spoon-fed this conversation, but as far as I can tell, everyone was benefiting from this and no one cared to say anything. Like, okay, episode 6, Pomni comes up to Ragatha and is like, hey Raggy, I was thinking you and me, duo, girls, let's go, boss queens, that's what I'm talking about. And Ragatha is like, oh, you know what, I didn't really want to leave Kinger alone with Jax because I just don't think that's a good duo, if I'm being honest with you, girl. And Pomni was like, okay, I logic with you. I see what you mean. So guess what? I'll go with Kinger. And then Rags over here is like, oh, you with Kinger? I was thinking I'd go with Kinger. And Pomni being Pomni, she's like, you know what? I see it. That's okay. That's where Ragatha's like, hey Pomni, you know, you can talk to me about anything. You know, I'm here for you. All right? I got your back. From right here. Episode 5, the stargazing episode. These two talking, whatever. Ragatha comes over, calls out Jackson a few things, rightfully so, because yeah, you can't expect Gangle to like hanging out with you and be happy if you're mistreating her all the fucking time. You can't expect that. Good on you, Rags, for calling that out. But when things go south and the tables have turned, this was where you should have said something. This is where you should have been like, hey Pomni, be careful. Like, at least something like that, you know? Like, you didn't have to be so explicit, like, XYZ happened before I even Gangle arrived. All of you were bystanders to Gangle. All of you were bystanders. None of you did anything for Gangle. All of you fucking bystanders. Yeah. Episode 7, when this motherfucker is having, like, his whatever bitch episode he's going through. I don't fucking know what's going, like, whatever mood he's got going on. Yeah. He might as well stay in his room because this mood is just a killer, okay? But guess what happens? Zubul comes up like, hey, why aren't you like tormenting us? Obviously they're like saying it in a sarcastic way, but like, what's up with you? And Jax is like, well, I'm fucking fantastic. What can I fucking tell you? And Zubul was like, you know, like if something's going on, you should be confiding in the people that you trust. But basically they were alluding to the fact that Jax should lean on to other people that he trusts, like aka Pomni, because clearly they were talking about Pomni. They were implying about Pomni. Like literally it wasn't even an implication. They practically almost like signaled her like, hey, yeah, oh gosh, aren't you forgetting something important, like something that the show should have addressed more? Yes, the CNA stuff. Yes, the CNA stuff. That should have been the plot. You can still have this theme of learning to live happy in a stagnant life or whatever. And if anything, you should have pursued more this plot point. So in the end, it feels more earned or understandable how they come to terms with them being brain scans. Oh, and last thing, I would have not made Kane a good guy. So what would my ideal finale look like if I had these changes? Well, I don't really have a full script here, guys, because this is just like a rough draft, but honestly, I would have taken the format of episode 5 and made the other 4 characters have that little adventure as they're finding the exits. in the finale. Like, okay, let me put it this way. Like, you know about that one scene in Phineas and Ferb where they're like in the other dimension and they have like a whole montage of them going to like different dimensions because the portal is broken and they only have like the remote, and they're just like going through each dimension with a catchy song in the background. Yeah, and then Pomni and Jax could have like their whole abstraction thing going on, okay? Eventually, the 6 of them reach this point where they are just discovering that they are brain scans. Kinger has to find a way to fix the circus without Kane coming back, okay? Kane does not come back. Fuck him. Now here's the big question. Would I make Jax abstract? No. Now hear me out, okay? Hear me out. I understand the idea of Jax's ending occurring because he did not want to let people in, and putting him almost as an example to why internalizing your feelings and hatred can lead you to your demise and detriment. Like, I get that. But for me, it would have been a more satisfying conclusion for him to face consequences. If you think abstraction is a consequence, like, that's your opinion, but it's wrong. No, I'm just kidding. No, but like, I don't agree with that. To me, abstraction is more like the equivalent of death. And if that were to happen to a bad person, I wouldn't be very happy about that. Like, take like a serial killer. If they decide to just kill the serial killer instead of being sent to prison, I wouldn't be happy about that. Does that make sense to you? I also feel like if we say that abstraction is a consequence, it paints the victims of abstraction, like Kaufmo and Ribbit, as if they did something bad or wrong, and therefore their consequence was the abstraction, when that wasn't it. It was just that they had reached a breaking point in their mental health. In my ending, I would have them reach this point where they realize that they are brain scans, and Kinger is left to fix the circus, and this just makes everyone else spiral, as they either start like remembering their lives, or maybe they're like viewing their lives the same way that Kane was showing them, like through a screen. They're just like viewing everyone outside of the circus living their lives. And if we follow like the initial arcs that I mentioned before, I could see it as them having like the following reactions. Like Pomni, you know, she was the break in the stagnant life, and now she is also going to be the one who encourages them to remain together, you know. Ragatha could experience this like proud moment of herself because she realizes that she was always capable of being on her own and escaping her mother's abuse, and she sees that she's succeeding out there, and she's just content knowing that she always had that in her, you know. She always had that strength, so she doesn't mind staying. Kinger is relieved to see that his wife is out there, you know, that Queenie is still out there. They're living their life together. His only guilt is that, you know, he's not going to be with his children, but it brings him comfort knowing that he, you know, Grant, is out there and he's taking care of their children in a way, you know. Zubul is making their mark out in the world, and there's like a comfort knowing that Kaufmo is fine, you know, that he's out there in the world as well. There's like a peace knowing that he was wrong about the exit, but also wished that he was here to learn the truth about that. But at least now they can put their theories to rest, you know. Gango for a moment does lean more towards a crisis because she has a similar journey to Ragatha, in which she left a toxic environment and is now just seeing her thrive with her dream job and with her passion, and she feels like almost like a type of envy that the other self does get that and she didn't get that, and she doesn't even want to be around most of the days. But this is also the point in her arc where she notices that being surrounded by good people can give you that fulfilling life, like a happy life, you know. And then we have Jax seeing that allowing people to get close to him and accepting themselves is possible. Like, really just twist that knife for him in there, you know. And what he says in the actual finale would make a little more sense here, saying stuff like, how could I be missed? How could I be loved? You know, admitting that he is a bad person, that he's a terrible person, insisting that he can't be helped. Ultimately, the lesson being, you can always become a better version of yourself from learning from the things that you did wrong. And just expanding on why I would not abstract Jax, let me just restate that to me, abstraction is loss of mental stability and not necessarily like a suicide allegory. It's more just like a breaking point. So as far as we know, abstraction is practically death. And in writing, when killing a character, there has to be a purpose or a thought to how this death is going to serve the story in particular. So death can serve as a way to raise the stakes in a story, but in this case, Kaufmo would be the one who already added in the stakes since episode 1. The stakes being, if there is a loss of mental stability, that equals to abstraction. So in another case, it could be, how does this death affect the rest of the characters? In a finale, it doesn't really leave much room to explore other than reminiscing the character, which is kind of hard to do with this type of character. I mean, like, the only one who is sad here is Pomni. Like, look at the rest of these motherfuckers. They're completely fine with this. Like, they are having the best time of their life right now. Like, look at them. I've never seen them happier. Even Pomni's voice actress, Lizzie Freeman, said that now Pomni suffers with, like, survivor's guilt. And I don't want that for Pomni. What? And you could argue that he serves a lesson to confide in others and let other people in your lives and to not be fucking assholes. The thing is, the other characters do not have that problem. So it could serve as a lesson to the audience, I guess, but it's not really useful to the story itself, which only leaves one other type of death, which is shock value. And I don't like that. The characters recognizing that he sees his wrongs but not forgiving him then and there. Almost like Sunset Shimmer. Look at Sunset Shimmer. In the second movie, she was still being judged for her actions of the first movie. Like, the characters want to help and try and move past it, but only if any effort is put in. Because they do see what Jax out there in the real world is actually like when he does receive a support. And mind you, help and support are different from love and forgiveness, okay? And I mean, they forgave Cain after a while, so I don't think it's far-fetched to think that these 6 can live in a better circumstance if everyone remains civil. I will say what made me get more into like this type of viewpoint for the video was that day I went to go watch the movie. I had a crisis patient who I spoke to for over an hour, and she just kept talking about how she feels guilty that she didn't leave an abusive relationship sooner, that she stayed there for 30 years, and that her son got affected, and so she knows that her son feels resentment towards her, and her son doesn't want to like admit how abusive his father was. And she was just crying a lot, and it really got to me in a sense, you know, like, you know, it's hard to just sit there and not feel any type of way when someone's crying as they're talking about their life story and about the terrible things that happened to them, right? And so I had that patience. A couple hours later, I'm checking out and I'm just gonna go watch the movie thinking, okay, here we go. And then I see like the online discourse and I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, this is insane. The conclusion here is this movie was okay. Yeah, movie was okay, I guess. I just wish it was formatted differently if possible. I think the show had a lot of potential, but we didn't really get to see any of that, so that makes me sad. And go watch Equestria Girls, I guess. I don't know what to tell you guys. I mean, yeah. Okay, that's it. My voice is out.